Hi, I'm Alec. Today I'll be showing you how to learn with ReCog. ReCog is an app that organizes your thoughts for you, putting them into tidy lists, galleries, word clouds, and graphs. The goal is to help you learn faster and understand more by doing all of the grunt organization work for you and helping you spend more time seeing the big picture in new and creative ways. This week, I'm going to put ReCog to the test myself. I am really good at developing applications. I am not very good at marketing, so I have a goal to come up with a marketing plan for ReCog in 1 week. Pretty ambitious. I'm going to need a lot of help, and I will show you how ReCog is going to help me get to that goal. I mentioned how ReCog organizes your thoughts for you. I'm going to take advantage of that this week. What I'm going to do is create a template for my marketing notes, and then I'm going to tell ReCog how I want to display that template. How I want a journal, a graph, a gallery, a word cloud, and then ReCog throughout the week, whenever I just type in my notes and upload some pictures with those notes, it will automatically update the gallery, the word cloud, the journal, etc. So this will save me a lot of time, and also what I'm hoping for is that I will have some extra epiphanies looking at the word cloud, the graph, or the gallery that I wouldn't have if I were just typing my notes into Google Drive. So let's go ahead and create that template. I'm going to do that right now and fast forward, but then I'll loop back and talk about these things just to save you some time. So first of all, I start off with my prompts, marketing questions. So these are 3 questions that I want to learn about. This is a trick I learned from a book called Breakthrough Rapid Reading. It's a pretty simple principle, but basically if you don't know specifically what you want to learn, you won't know what to pay attention to. You'll read slow, and you won't remember very much of what matters to you. On the other hand, if you know exactly what you're looking for, you'll read quicker, you'll be able to skip over sections that aren't important to you, and you'll remember more of what you want. Right after this, we have notes. These are my notes about the book. I'll answer the questions above here, but I like to keep the questions separate and at the front, so they're the very first thing I see when I start to type in notes. Focuses me while I'm reading. And then also I like to keep my action items separate from the notes. So the notes are how I interpret the book, but action items are specifically what can I do with the things learned here. These are kind of my brainstorming. And this is what's going to be the initial part of my marketing plan. Next, I have visual notes. One cool thing about ReCog is that it displays both text and images, so if I want a list of the titles of these thoughts, I can browse them and see the text, etc. But if I'm in a more visual mode, I can see a gallery of images from my thoughts rather than the text. This can be a powerful way of learning. In college, I played around with doing mind maps and visual notes instead of text notes. I found I actually reviewed my visual notes a whole lot more. So as I go ahead and read about marketing, I'm going to make some doodles, draw some diagrams, whatever, but there will be visual notes. And ReCog will take care of those. It will give me a separate view where I can see all of these visual notes together, and I'll see if I can learn something different than I would just staring at text notes. And then lastly, I'll give each book a rating 1 to 10. They'll help me know which books were most helpful, so when I'm reviewing this material, I can focus on the books that actually were the most interesting, most compelling, gave me the most insights, etc. Since that's a number, we can graph that just for fun. That makes it really easy to see which one is the most useful. So all I need to do right now is just save this as a template. So click save. Now I've got it as a template. Anytime I create a new thought or even edit an existing one, I can click the box here and apply templates, and all of these fields that you see here will be added to the thought as well as the tags. Notice that I have actually added 2 tags here. That's because each thought can actually belong to more than one collection. So I'll make a collection for marketing notes as well as I have a collection for general reading. Each thought will be added to both of them. Alright, I'm not actually going to take any notes right now, so I'll cancel out here. And I am going to go ahead and create a collection. A collection automatically picks up new thoughts and does all the processing necessary to add your thoughts to lists, journals, galleries, graphs, word clouds, etc. So go ahead and create a new one, give it a title. And the first thing you do with a collection is go ahead and tell it which thoughts to pick up. The easiest way to do that is with a tag. Notice how it's picking up a whole bunch of random thoughts here. I add the tag, filters them all out. I currently don't have any marketing notes, so the example thoughts section is empty. So filtering is how a collection finds the thoughts. Now the next piece of a collection are views. Views are how your collection displays thoughts. You can display thoughts in different ways for the same collection. So a collection can have multiple views. By default, you just get a list of each thought and its title. You can do a lot more interesting things, however. Again, I'm going to go on fast forward, and then we'll talk about the views I set up. Alright, so let's take a look at these views. I left in the default list of items by title. That's pretty standard. It's just what you see in folders or Drive. Like, this is the only view most collections give you actually in other programs. However, I added a pages view, basically like a journal that has the title and the action items of each thought. It doesn't have the other information. I've decided action items are what I want to focus on. I'm going to want to see basically my takeaway action points for each set of notes. So that's an easy way just to simplify a collection with a bunch of information and a lot going on. So the next item is a notes plus action items word cloud. I'm feeding basically all of the text into a word cloud so I can see what are the most common words, what's most important. This will help me zoom in on key concepts. If I'm tired of text, I have my gallery. It will take all the visual notes from each thought and just display those so I can take in those at once. It's a different way of thinking. You might spot different patterns when looking at your diagrams and doodles as opposed to your text. And also you can take in a lot more information visually. So the fact that you can have a visual view as well as text views for your collections, for your notes, that's pretty powerful. And speaking of visual views, I'm taking the ratings and turning them into a bar graph. So really the next step for us is then testing this. Alright, so now we've got a collection. It's looking pretty empty. Let's just throw some quick test data in there to make sure everything works. So marketing notes. Got my template ready to go. Let's see, man, I am feeling the Trejo today. Let's go ahead and, just for Danny Trejo, we'll give that a 10. Alright, so instantly my collection without me doing anything is updated. I have that thought in a list. I have it in my action items, a little journal page right there, pretty short. I have this fantastic word cloud. I have our wonderful picture of Danny Trejo. And I have a bar graph right there. So that was pretty quick. Once you have everything set up with your collection and your template, then ReCog is just ready to go to organizing everything for you. So I'll go ahead and cut to when I actually have some real data to show. You can see an example of my template in action right here in my marketing notes on hacking growth. The research questions are up here at the top. I reuse those research questions as headers in my notes. That allowed me to focus on the key pieces of information and help me process what I was reading a little bit more. I had to think about where to put each piece of information. I wasn't just copying things down verbatim, paraphrasing whatever I was reading in the order I read it. While I was reading, I would also go ahead and switch between paraphrasing the author's ideas and actually writing down how I could use those ideas, how I could apply them. So I was thinking about things in a couple of different levels. I was rearranging the author's ideas up here in my notes sections to fit my needs, and then I was actually taking those ideas and applying them to my life here. So that's the next step. Those two items helped me process what I was reading while I was reading. The visual notes I did after I was reading. I'd use them as a little quiz. Without looking back at my notes, I would start drawing out ideas from the books in a loose mind map style. I'm not very strict about that, but that was a helpful quiz that helped me remember and understand things a little bit better. And when I got stuck, I could look at my notes and draw a little bit more. And lastly, I have a rating 1 to 10. Honestly, originally I added that as a little fluff piece, like so I could show off graphs in ReCog. That actually became surprisingly helpful, being able to take a step back and give a simple indicator. It could have been, was this helpful, true, false, or a 1 to 10 scale, whatever, but evaluating the usefulness of each book as I read it helped me focus on my actual task, so I didn't keep reading a book that wasn't helpful. There will be more on that last piece when we go ahead and look at the collection view where you can see all my notes together. Speaking of collections, let's go ahead and check out the marketing notes collection. So here's the basic list. I might add that I haven't edited anything about this collection. The collection has just been at work automatically collecting new notes with the marketing notes tag and updating itself. So it's nice to have all this organized without any additional effort on my part. The list, not too exciting. I can click through here and see the individual notes if I want. And the action item's a little bit more useful, so as I'm writing down my actual marketing plan, I can flip through and just see the action items I came up with for myself. Here's the word cloud of action items. There's a lot of things that are pretty expected. People are the heart of marketing, that marketing has to do with content, targeting an audience, it has to do with reaching people in the right medium, has to do with reaching groups of people, etc., filling needs. So not that surprising. One thing that might surprise you is actually the word disappointed. So that was kind of a cool discovery. In one of the books, it actually talks about how having a must-have product is defined as 40% of your active users say they would be disappointed if your product disappeared tomorrow. So pretty cool. There'll be the occasional surprise that comes through these word clouds. At another point earlier in the week, giving was actually one of the top 20 words. It's probably still here somewhere. But that was a good reminder that marketing isn't about taking attention, it's about giving attention, really. Thinking about what your users need and have questions about and like and enjoy, and giving that to them. So that marketing really is about giving more than taking if you're doing it right. Visual notes are pretty cool. So sometimes in just looking at pictures, you see different patterns than you would with text. There's a couple of things that stand out to me here about this picture. You can see the books. You can instantly tell what the books, because they just have a lot more color and a lot more going on. The articles had less content, so they're a little simpler. The other interesting thing I notice is that with the first three items, the first book and two articles, I have a left to right pattern here, left to right movement. With the last book, the book where I really figured out where I was in marketing and what I needed to do, I actually have a right to left movement. There's a little arrow there that's a little bit hard to see. Basically, in this one, I realized that I don't need to market, that in order to have a must-have product, by that definition of 40% of a few hundred active users say they need the product, that's when you start marketing, that's when you start pushing growth. Before then, you should do everything by word of mouth, by just manual user testing, and so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. But that reversal where I'm like, wait, I have to step back, and I'm moving backwards in a way conceptually, you can see that in the visual notes, which is kind of cool. That's one of the patterns I noticed with the pictures. Alright, last is the graph of my ratings, how I rated each book. I think actually 6 might be a little bit generous. There were a lot of ideas from that, but it didn't have a lot relevant to me, actually. So about halfway through the week, I was looking at a graph and it only had these 3 items, 4 and a couple of 6s, and I was realizing what I'm looking at right now is not meeting my needs. That allowed me to drop what I was reading. I stopped looking at online articles because I didn't know what to find and they were too targeted. I stopped the book that I was reading. I read about half of it because I realized I just wasn't going to get a perfect answer or a really good fit answer from that. And that kept me looking. I found a second book, Hacking Growth, and that had exactly what I needed. So actually evaluating the sources as I read them by usefulness, super, super helpful. And seeing the graph kind of drove that home for me. And that's really where I think ReCog helps out. So there's a lot of these things that I could have known beforehand. Like I kind of knew, I didn't feel like 100% happy with what I was reading. But looking at those low scores drove me to action. Seeing something helps you understand it a little bit better than just having written it down somewhere. Most of these things you can apply by yourself. You don't need ReCog for these to create a study template, to create some questions that you need to answer. You can do a whole bunch of drawings and then tape them up on a wall instead of having a gallery. But it's just kind of nice to have an automatically curated group of visuals for what I was studying. It was helpful to see the word cloud and call out a few key ideas. It was helpful to see a trend in the graph, see that I wasn't actually reaching my intended audience. Actually, since this is reverse chronological order, I was actually getting further from the mark, and then I switched tack and bam, nailed it. So having these visuals updated for me made it really easy to get the big picture of my studies and answer a really difficult question in a week. Actually, a little bit less than a week. I think I got my answer on the 6th day. So pretty good experience. Go ahead and try and use some of these tactics. Get some questions that you're going to use for reading. Evaluate whether those questions are being answered by the source, and if they're not, go ahead and skip to another source. Try to process things in multiple different ways, apply them to your life, do a visual version of your note taking, reorder the author's ideas. Those are all helpful. And then try and combine your notes together in a way that allows you to see the big picture. So ReCog did a lot of that for me automatically, but you could still have a page that had a list of all your 1 to 10 ratings, or like I said, you could tape up your visual notes on a wall somewhere. So there are a lot of options. ReCog is convenient, it's fast, it enforces some of these good patterns, or at least makes them really easy to implement. With a little time and effort, you can apply most of these strategies to your own case without ReCog, but if you are interested in ReCog, I would love to see how it helps you organize your ideas. Go ahead and go to recog.biz/signup to sign up for our waiting list. We're in closed beta right now, but you'll be on a list of the first people that should get access to ReCog when we open it up. I look forward to hearing from you.